Okay, so we so sometimes we have to check this comment section in order to find out some questions coming from our friends out there. So hello everyone, welcome to our interview. Today is beautiful day. Today is Sunday, and we have very beautiful guests, we can say. But we don't say in English beautiful to a man. Yes, we say handsome. Okay, so good day, Richard. How
Hello,
are
everyone.
you?
I'm wonderful.
Okay, so Richard is our guest today, yeah, and it's a great honor to have you as a speaker, yeah, as an interviewee
So thank you.
in our interview program. And before jumping into the main subject of our interview, I'd like to ask you, is it okay with you, to say a little bit about yourself?
So sure. So first of all, my name is Richard Barnett, and I'm a resident of the state of Texas in the United States, and I work for a major oil and gas company here in Kazakhstan. And a little bit about myself. So I'm 46 years old. I'm married, have a wonderful wife, 3 wonderful, lovely daughters. The oldest one is married. The middle one is a junior in university, and the youngest one is a senior in high school getting ready to go to university. So a little bit about my professional background, if you will.
Yes, please, yes.
So right out of high school, which is a little bit different than some places around the world, I went to work in the oil and gas industry in the United States, in the Gulf of Mexico. And you could say that it was somewhat of an apprenticeship program, if you will. So without a formal technical education, I went to work in the oil and gas industry and worked for a few different companies until I had the opportunity to go overseas for the first time. And the first time I went overseas, I did not want to go.
Oh, really? Why so?
I did not want to go because I did not want to leave my family. And it was something that I was not accustomed to. So I was used to working away from home in the Gulf of Mexico, United States, but I worked 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And I was going to have to be gone 35 days and 35 days with this new assignment, 5 weeks on, 5 weeks off. And I was not very comfortable about going to China at the time. This was in 2002. Long story short, I ended up going to China. It ended up being one of the best decisions that I ever made.
Oh, really?
It was. It was a great assignment. I worked in China for almost 4 years. And then I had the opportunity to go to work for a major oil and gas company. The assignment in China was for a small company, and there were limited career opportunities. So I took the opportunity to interview, which we'll be talking about today. So I took the opportunity to interview with a major U.S. oil and gas company, and I was successful in getting the job. And since then, I have worked my way up and worked in the Gulf of Mexico, United States, worked in our Houston corporate office for new projects. I've worked in Bangladesh, and I went back to Houston and worked in our project group again. And then from there, I came to Kazakhstan to work. So this is my 3rd international assignment.
3rd international assignment, you mean here in Kazakhstan now, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing with this information, which is very, very interesting and very huge. So you have this vast experience, a worldwide experience, working for different international companies, Western companies, yeah? And that is why I asked you to come as a speaker to our interview, because we know that the main topic sounds keys of a successful interview in Western companies, or with Western companies, yeah? And as an international specialist with this great background in working in international companies, Western companies, Richard, can you please tell us the first key of successfully being interviewed with Western companies?
Well, I thought about this a little bit earlier today. So, in total transparency to all of our viewers, Nazgul was kind enough to give me the questions earlier today so I could at least know what I would be asked. And I didn't have time to study them completely, but I did have time to look at them and kind of gather some thoughts. The most important thing to a successful interview, if I had to give one piece of advice, is make a first good impression.
And how?
You only get one first impression. And how do you do that? Be on time, be prepared, be professional. You know, so all of those are keys to making a good first impression. And we can talk a little bit more about those later on in the interview, but
Sure.
but I can't stress enough about being on time and being professional. You know, you are setting the stage for the interview, and if the interviewers already have a bad taste in their mouth when you come in the room, then you're going to have to work harder to get their attention. So if you're late, you need to have a really good reason.
Oh.
You need to be on time and you need to be prepared. So being prepared, again, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but knowing what you're interviewing for, you know, understanding the company and the role is very important. Being professional goes without saying. You know, act in a way that is professional is what I'm saying. You know, be very formal, because you usually do not know the people who are interviewing you. They're not your friend today. Yet.
They're not yet, yes.
They're not your friend yet.
Good. So we need to try to make this first impression, to use this chance that you have. The only chance that you have in order to get this job, yeah? So impression, as you said, preparation, and be professional, come on time, okay? And understand your role, the job that you are applying to.
Correct.
Yeah, and you have to understand it. Great. And what is the interview process like in Western companies?
So, obviously, every company is different, and I can only speak to the companies that I've been involved with. But many large Western companies now use a lot of the same formats and styles and different human resource policies and procedures. So while what I'm about to tell you may not be exact for every company, it's probably going to be similar, because they all want to follow the same rules and regulations, if you will. Even if they're not written rules, they're ethical rules, if you will. So while all the companies are different, a lot of Western companies, if it's a large company, the human resource and the legal department actually play a big part in interview questions. Western companies, if they're large enough, they do not allow the interviewer just to make up any generic question. A lot of the questions come from the legal department and the HR department. And the reason this is to make sure that the interviewers are treating the interviewees fair. So what I mean by that is, it's not fair for me to ask interviewee number one set of questions, and ask interviewee number two a totally separate set of questions. Because if I'm asking people different questions, how do I rate them properly?
Right, you are.
So to be fair, they ask the same questions to every interviewee. And you know, some of the questions from HR will be things like, tell me about your employment history.
Yeah, that is a common question.
It's a common question for anyone. Also, tell me about your education. You know, where did you get your education? When did you get your education? They want to know about your communication skills a lot of times. You know, depending on the role that you're in, but most companies now work in team environments, and they want to make sure that you can communicate with each other and that you have good team working skills. They will ask questions about situational awareness, if you will. So, for example, tell me about a time that you had difficulty getting your point across to a coworker.
Oh my goodness. And explain us.
And explain how you got your point across. So they want to make sure that you can communicate with others and you can do it in a professional manner. And when you have problems with other people, that you can work solutions in your mind, you know. And sometimes the proper answer is, I had to go to the supervisor. But they want to understand that you've been in situations like this and you know how to act or react.
That you are able to resolve these issues happening with you at workplace.
Yes.
Yeah, without involving a supervisor. Yes, supervisor can come.
Correct.
So, but they'd like to hear your answer. Yeah, your thinking way. Okay, that's really interesting, actually.
So another question around communication would be something like, tell me the last time that a coworker disagreed with you and got angry with you. How did you and the coworker end up? How did you bring that to resolution?
And what did you bring? Yeah.
So they want to make sure that you are a team player, and that, you know, sometimes you have to say that you went to the employee and said, I was wrong, forgive me. And sometimes it was, well, we couldn't come to a agreement, so we had to get the supervisor involved because it was a matter of policy, you know, where basically both of you are right. It's just a matter of interpreting the work different. So sometimes you can't agree.
Yeah.
But they want to know that.
That's a tricky one.
It's very tricky. Another one would be around organization skills. You know, how well do you plan your work? How well do you work with deadlines? So they will ask questions like, have you ever been in a time-demanding job where you've had multiple items due in a short amount of time? How do you prioritize your work? And you need to tell us and be able to explain. So it's very, very good to have some of those answers thought about before you go into an interview.
That's a good tips. Good tips coming from Richard. Please listen very, very carefully. Yes, and take notes. Yes, please do it. Записывайте все, что говорят, да? Please take notes. Okay. And something else to add to this point?
No, just, you know, to add to the HR and the legal generic questions, usually any specific questions about the role, you know, around technical roles or specific roles that this job would entail that you're applying for. Whatever the interviewers come up with, they usually run them by the HR or legal department to make sure they're comfortable with the questions. Because, again, you want to make sure that you're being fair to everyone, and you want to make sure that you're asking questions that they only pertain to the job, and that you're not prying into people's personal business. Especially in Western countries, there are a lot of privacy laws. So you want to make sure that you're not asking very private questions that shouldn't be asked.
Too much personal.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to ask your phone number or your marital status and your home address and things like that. No, none of those things. It should be strictly work related.
Okay, very good. So communication, so recap what you said, yeah? So communication, organization skills, very important, and the person will be asked then in the interview process, what is your organization skills? And some questions on this, and some questions related to communication skills, and how you resolve this issue, this problem, or regarding organization. So what was your deadline, and what did you do to accomplish that goal? Yeah. What about your prioritizing things? Good, very nice. So, could you tell? And you said you already covered this question, I think, but I'd like to ask you. So, interviewer as asking questions, like I'm doing now, yeah, so asking questions. So, can you please tell us just in general, what types of questions could be in the job interview process?
What types of questions?
Yeah, so I think professional one, yeah. relating your work, your professional, your maybe some personal, and what kind of personal questions could be there?
There may be personal questions, but they would be very generic questions around, what is your family status? And the only reason that a company would ask a question like that would be if your job, for example, some of the oil and gas related jobs in Kazakhstan require you to be away from home for 1 month at a time.
Yes.
So they would need to know your family status and if you have a problem being away from home for a month at a time. Do you have a family member that requires you to be there for them? Are you the only child? Do you have elderly parents? Those type things. So some of those questions would come out. But really, more along the lines of specific around the role, organization skills, communication skills, leadership skills.
Leadership skills, we need to add it here. So leadership skills, okay.
So one of the philosophies that the current company that I work for uses a lot, and we really, really believe this, is everyone is a leader. So you do not have to have the title of manager, supervisor,
leader.
Superintendent. Everyone is a leader. And if you don't have direct reports, then at least you are an influencer of others. So if you don't have supervisory experience to talk about, sometimes they will ask about your influence skills. So if you've never worked specifically, with people under you, have you ever worked where you had to influence others to take your opinion, and to take your ideas, and they want to know how well you can do that.
And why it's so important for the interviewer asking this question related leadership skills? Why they like to know about that?
Well, again, one of the things that my company believes in is that everyone is a leader, so therefore everyone should be able to embrace those beliefs and skills.
Okay, very good. And so interesting. Thank you. Well, so now let's jump into the tips, real tips. Yeah. So please give us, Richard, five crucial tips. Yeah, how to get through the interview smoothly, effectively. Yeah.
Okay, so
typical question.
I thought about this. This was probably the question that I thought about the most this morning when I looked at this. And number one, to get the job you want, you need to be prepared for the interview. And I can't stress that enough. You need to show that you're prepared. So what do I mean by being prepared? You need to research the company that you're trying to go to work for. You need to understand the business that they are in, and you need to understand the role that you're applying for. I worked again in Bangladesh one time, and I'll give you an example because Bangladesh is very overpopulated, but they're an emerging country, and they have a lot of people who are in university or just recently graduated university. So the employment pool is very big, of eligible workers.
For sure, yes.
I had a position that I interviewed for. I had 2 positions, and I had 6,000 applicants.
6,000 applicants.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. 2 positions.
2 positions, 6,000 applicants. So the first thing that we did as a hiring committee was start weeding out the people who, by their resume and the questions that they had already answered, we knew did not know what they were applying for. They were just applying for the job because it was a Western company with a good name and a good reputation.
And they didn't know. They just applied.
They just
want a job.
They just want a job. So that's number one, be prepared. Number 2, research the company, research the industry. If the company is, so in Kazakhstan, if we say it's a Western company, research the country and the region that the company is from. The reason I say that is because customs are sometimes different. And when I mean customs, I mean the customs of the company. The way they do business may be a little bit different than what you're accustomed to.
Yes, that matters.
So it does matter. When I said research the company and the role, be able to talk about the company and use the role in conversation if asked during the interview.
Okay.
One of the other ones would definitely be confident about yourself.
Be confident. Be confident. It's very, very problematic for many people when they come to the interview.
Being confident is a problem for some people, and for some people, being overconfident is a problem.
It is.
Because you do not want to seem arrogant. There's a difference between confident and arrogant. So when I say confident, I mean you are a salesperson today. And the commodity that you're selling is yourself.
Right.
So be comfortable speaking about yourself, your education, your talents, your abilities, and that you have something to offer this company. So be confident in that message. Another thing that I would say would be professional in appearance, speech, and action. So we talked about speaking a little bit earlier. So professional in appearance. Do not show up for an interview and you're going out on the city on Saturday night clothes.
Last night clothes.
Dress professional. Talk professional. Understand that the audience, again, they are professionals and they're not your friends. Even if you know someone on the interview board, it's still, you need to be professional during the interview. Get a good night's sleep before.
Yes.
That is really important. So you have clarity of thought. You're well rested. You don't want to stay out all night and then go to an early morning interview. That's not good.
Otherwise, you have to skip it.
Yeah.
And lost the chance.
So the last one that I would tell you is remember that you're asking them for a job. They're not asking you. It's their company. It's their rules. It's their morals. It's their ethics. It's their processes, their procedures. So I can't stress enough to research the company, be able to talk about the basics of the company, the business that they're in, the role that you're applying for, and understanding again that it's not your company, it's theirs, and you're seeking a job.
Yes, right you are. Just why I'm laughing at, because not in my personal life, but a friend of mine, he went through the interview. He came to the interview and he said to me then, when he failed, he said, I asked him, why did you fail this interview? He said, because I am a professional person, so I asked them to pay me such amount of money, and they didn't. They shut the door, something like that. So can you please say a little bit about asking money? The rate, or maybe for rate, as it's commonly sound in Western companies. Yeah? So how to politely, or how to ask for this question, for your money, for your amount of money. Is it okay for asking money or not?
So I think I actually wrote that down as one of my talking points, and I think you have a question here about at the end of the interview.
Oh, yes.
So that is what I would say it would be appropriate to ask those type things. To bring up compensation or vacation or any other type of benefits during the interview is very inappropriate. But I do believe that all companies expect this question, but they expect it at a certain time. And the proper time would be at the end of the interview. If you were asked, okay, we are finished interviewing you, would you like to ask us anything? That is your opportunity to ask specific questions about the company and about the compensation package and specifically about the role. If at this point you ask only about compensation and you do not ask about the specific role, you are not going to get the job.
Oh, okay. So we should be crystal clear on this. So how to ask for it? Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is you're showing interest in money only.
Yes.
You're not showing interest in the position. And one of the other things that I would add about when you're able to ask questions, ask about things like the roles and responsibility of the position. Ask about learning opportunities. Don't just ask about advancement opportunities. Ask about learning opportunities. Will I have the opportunity with this company to learn new things? Will I have the opportunity with this company to use the skills that I already have? Ask those type of questions. That means a lot. But when you just ask, how much am I going to get paid, and how many vacation days do I get, and when do I get my own office? Those are not.
That's a great question.
Those are not good questions.
Okay, so please never ask for the compensation, but ask for the opportunities to grow.
Right.
To grow your capability, your ability to do something, to grow up your skills. Because this century, 21st century that we are living in, is all about skills.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, good.
Right.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. It's very helpful. It might be helpful for everyone, maybe for those one who is going to pass any interview tomorrow, maybe.
I hope so.
Or for those one who are looking for the new opportunities.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm. Anything else to add, or can I give you a question?
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is again, if you're back to the 21st century, we live in this internet age, and sometimes this internet age gives you a great opportunity to stay at home and take the interview by using your mobile phone, for example, as sitting maybe in your room, or maybe in your dining room, maybe kitchen, and go through the interview and get this job. Sometimes, Now, why I'm telling this, because I'd like to ask the next question about the type of interviews, So, what is your most preferable type of, maybe taking the interview, or interviewing someone through online, by inviting to office, offline, face-to-face, by seeing this person in a real life, or maybe by telephone?
So for me personally, whether I'm the interviewee or the interviewer, I prefer face-to-face. The reason I prefer face-to-face is because you learn a lot about a person based on their appearance, their action, their body language, the way you present yourself and the way you carry yourself. Sometimes you can see someone walking down the street and you do not even have to speak to them to know that this person has confidence. Or just the opposite, to know that this person has zero confidence. So being able to see people and see their body language and their action is very important. But so that is the best, because again, as the interviewer, you get to recognize this, and as the interviewee, you get to display this. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you are interviewing for the job and you're given the choice, we can interview you over the phone or you can come to the office. If you have the opportunity to be there face to face, go. I do understand that with some international companies, or even in Kazakhstan locally, because it's a big country, I do understand that, if you're in Adarau, you may not want to travel to Almaty for a 1-hour interview. I understand that. But if you're in the same city and you're given the opportunity, or you have the ability to get there, face-to-face is better.
Face-to-face is better.
You can sell yourself better face-to-face.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
Let me add something to that.
Please.
So, we're talking about the 21st century and we're talking about technology. And a lot of companies are doing, web interviews or phone interviews, these type things, to save money and save time. So I understand this. But But just as companies are using this technology to do this, they're also using this technology to check on you.
And how?
Your social media presence is public. You need to be sure that you have a good social media presence.
That's a greatest tip.
Let me give you an example.
Please.
If you're going to work for a major oil and gas company, you're going to interview for a major oil and gas company, you may not want all of your Instagram posts to be about Greenpeace, global warming, and protesting energy companies.
I got to, yeah. Okay, it matters.
I'm being serious, it does matter. I'm not talking about people's politics or their personal beliefs. Those are your beliefs. But what I am saying is, you know, the digital world, things do not go away. So when you post silly pictures of inappropriate things, and you have inappropriate posts out there for the public, or you're behaving in a way routinely that is not professional, your interviewers can find this, and they can see it just by doing a Google search for you sometimes.
And before you can even feel this selection point when
Correct.
they are started gathering all these
You may not
and
even
looking
get an
at.
interview.
Yes, and even
Correct.
not getting through this, not passing this
Correct.
step, even the first step. Oh, the social media does matter, yes.
It does.
We need to check all of our profiles. Yes. Very good, interesting. Now, I'm so excited, with all of your answers. Thank you very much for this great atmosphere you're doing.
I have one thing that I forgot to tell you, and I want to be clear that I say this because it's important. Before the interview is over, you need to be very, very sure that you thank them for taking the time to let you interview with them, and that you believe their time is valuable, because it is. And you mentioned something earlier, your friend, you didn't say it, your friend said it, about failing an interview. Do not look at that. Look at every interview as an opportunity to learn something new. And I like to think that when you interview, you may not be interviewing for the job today, you may be interviewing for the next opening that the company has.
Oh, yes.
So what I mean by that is, I have actually hired people for jobs in the future based on previous interviews. But I'll tell you what we did. We only had one position, and this has happened multiple times. We only had one position, but we had several candidates that were very good, and we really wanted to offer 2 or 3 of them a job, but we only had one position. We kept their name, and we hired them a year later, and we didn't even interview them. We just called them and said, we have this position, are you interested? Because you interviewed well last time. So don't look at not getting a job as a lost opportunity. Look at it as an opportunity to learn something new and just to experience an interview.
This is a great experience.
It's a good learning experience, so we should value them.
Okay, and thank you for adding this. Thank you very much. Many people, when they fail the interview, and they start, doing this, scrolling themselves out, saying, oh, why screwing, it's not good. This is a good opportunity. This is the learning process. That's it. Yeah? Yes. You can be well prepared to the next opportunity, the next interview. Very good. And now, I think this is the last question from me to you, Richard, today. What would be your best wishes for those who are looking for the job?
Again, I just want to repeat that, use the interview to your advantage. It is an opportunity to learn. Again, I want to say be confident. Not overconfident, not arrogant, but believe that that you have something of value to add to the company, and when you go to the interview, be prepared to advertise that value that you bring. If you can't relate specifically to the role that you're applying for, and let me explain that. So sometimes within large companies, there are some technical roles or many different roles that may have a different name or title, or maybe just a little different than an industry norm or something that you're used to. Try to do a little bit of research on that. If you know the name of it, try to do a Google search. Try to research the company. Try to find out more about that role. If it's a big company, see if you know somebody that knows something about that company and can get you some insider information.
For example, in LinkedIn, we can find people working.
We can. And it's not, that's not cheating. That's called being prepared. You know, you need to be able to speak to the role you're applying for.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You know, for me, what was important in this interview, for me, what I learned is all about making this researching, you know. Before, I didn't do that. I just came in and said, okay, hi, I'm here, I'm this one, my role was this one, yeah. And I have never ever done any researches, and that was really, really good and very helpful for me, and it will be useful and helpful in the future, and I definitely should for that. Dear friends, do you have any questions for our speaker, for our guest, Richard? Do you have any questions? Let's check. Maybe they have some questions out there. So what do about conversation? Don't have any idea about what kind of conversation you are talking about. Please resend your question again, please, if it's okay for you. Okay. I was asked exactly the same question in my previous interviews. Okay, very good. Sounds good. Okay. So, very good. I think that all of your answers the answer that you gave could cover all the questions, even coming from our friends. So, yes. Richard, thank you very much for the time. I know that today is day off for you. Right now is day off. Yeah, we can say
yes.
Yeah, time off. And you came in and you jumped into my interview program and you said yes. In the beginning, last month or 2 months ago, we agreed this meeting, and you agreed. Thank you very much for supporting us. Thank you very much for your valuable answers and tips that you gave to our friends, and I think that it will be useful, and for sure, yes. Thank you, and we are all wish you the best in your life the best opportunities in your professional life and in your personal life, doesn't matter. And we wish you good luck and happiness and well-being and prosperity and every single beautiful things in your life.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So everyone, thank you for joining us, and see you next time. Please look to the next advertisement coming from us. Bye-bye. Good luck, everyone.